Serenity wasn't just a movie. It was resurrection through willpower. A film that turned canceled television into cinematic redemption.
The moment it was canceled, I imagine I would be in this position here tonight, because that's the only way to get in this position.
And made fans believe passion could overcome network executives. But behind the spaceship battles and alliance conspiracies, nothing was guaranteed. Joss Whedon mortgaged his house to prove the concept.
Oh, we had a lot of fun, come see our movie. I've seen movies like that, and it's like 4 for Texas.
Universal gave him a fraction of typical sci-fi budgets, and the cast returned for scale wages just to finish the story Fox had destroyed. These are 15 weird facts about Serenity. 1. Whedon mortgaged his house to develop the script. After Firefly's cancellation, Whedon spent years trying to revive the story, eventually risking his personal finances to prove the franchise's viability to skeptical studios. He used his success with Buffy and Angel as leverage, but still needed to demonstrate personal commitment before Universal would greenlight the project. The financial gamble became legendary among browncoats, symbolizing how much the creator believed in completing his vision despite network rejection. Whedon's willingness to bet his own money convinced Universal that passionate fan support could translate into box office returns. The mortgage story demonstrated that sometimes the most important creative projects require personal sacrifice beyond professional obligations and studio support. 2. The entire cast took massive pay cuts. Nathan Fillion, Summer Glau, and the entire Firefly ensemble accepted scale wages, far below their market rates, just to complete the story that television cancellation had left unfinished. Their willingness to work for minimal pay demonstrated genuine belief in the project and loyalty to Whedon's vision that transcended typical Hollywood financial negotiations. The pay cuts meant Serenity could be made on Universal's limited budget, while keeping the original cast that fans demanded for authentic continuation. Cast members later said completing Serenity felt more important than financial compensation because it provided closure they owed to devoted fans. Their sacrifice created powerful narrative about artistic integrity and the relationships formed during Firefly's brief but intense production. 3. The budget was tiny for a space opera. Universal allocated only $39 million, less than half what typical science fiction blockbusters commanded, forcing creative solutions and practical effects over expensive CGI spectacle. The limited resources meant Whedon had to prioritize character development and story over elaborate space battles and alien planets that bigger budgets could afford. The financial constraints actually enhanced Serenity's aesthetic by maintaining Firefly's scrappy, lived-in universe rather than transforming it into glossy Hollywood product. Whedon used every dollar efficiently, combining practical effects with selective CGI that served story rather than showing off technical capabilities. The modest budget proved that passionate filmmaking could overcome financial limitations when creators understood their material and audiences deeply enough. 4. Wash's death was planned from the beginning. Whedon always intended to kill Wash to demonstrate that no character was safe and that warfare had genuine consequences beyond simple action movie stakes. Alan Tudyk knew his character would die, but agreed because the sacrifice served Serenity's themes about the cost of resistance against authoritarian power. The sudden, unheroic death shocked audiences and eliminated the safety net that typical action films provide their beloved characters through plot armor. Whedon wanted viewers to experience genuine fear for the remaining crew during the final battle sequence after Wash's death proved anyone could die. The controversial decision divided fans but created authentic tension that made Serenity's conclusion feel genuinely dangerous rather than predetermined triumph. 5. River's combat scenes required months of choreography. Summer Glau trained extensively to portray River's transformation from damaged girl to lethal weapon, learning complex fight choreography that would look both graceful and devastating. Her dance background provided foundation for movement vocabulary that made River's combat style distinctly different from conventional action choreography. Whedon wanted River's fighting to appear simultaneously beautiful and terrifying, reflecting her character's combination of innocence and weaponized violence. The choreography emphasized her precognitive abilities through movements that seemed to anticipate attacks before they occurred, creating visual representation of her psychic powers. Glau's commitment to authentic physical performance meant most of River's combat was performed by her rather than stunt doubles or obvious camera trickery. 6. The Reaver reveal was controversial among fans. Explaining the Reaver's origin through government experimentation divided Firefly fans who preferred them as mysterious space monsters rather than victims of bureaucratic incompetence. Whedon believed the revelation served his themes about government overreach and unintended consequences of authoritarian attempts to engineer perfect populations. The exposition-heavy sequence explaining the Reavers required Miranda flashback that some critics felt slowed the film's momentum at crucial dramatic moments. But the reveal connected to broader themes about how civilizations create their own worst nightmares through misguided attempts to eliminate human nature's messy complexity. The backstory transformed Reavers from simple antagonists into tragic commentary on social engineering and the hubris of controlling human behavior through chemical intervention. 7. The special effects team included Firefly alumni. Whedon hired many of the same effects artists who created Firefly's distinctive visual style, ensuring cinematic Serenity would feel consistent with television aesthetic fans loved. The continuity of effects team meant ship designs, space battles, and technological details remained faithful to established universe rather than being reimagined for theatrical audiences. The familiar crew understood Whedon's vision for how technology should look: functional, worn, cobbled together rather than sleek and futuristic in typical Hollywood fashion. Their involvement maintained the gritty, realistic approach to space travel that distinguished Firefly from cleaner science fiction universes that ignored practical considerations. The decision to keep the effects team demonstrated Whedon's commitment to honoring the show's established aesthetic rather than chasing blockbuster spectacle. 8. Universal barely marketed the film. The studio's minimal marketing budget reflected their uncertainty about Serenity's commercial viability and their unfamiliarity with passionate niche fan bases driving box office. Universal relied heavily on grassroots browncoat campaigns rather than investing in traditional advertising that might reach broader audiences beyond existing fans. The limited marketing meant Serenity struggled to find audiences beyond devoted Firefly viewers who already knew the characters and premise. Studio executives didn't understand that the franchise required broader introduction rather than assuming general audiences would pay for continuation of canceled television series. The marketing failure demonstrated Hollywood's ongoing struggle to recognize value in passionate niche audiences versus attempting to appeal to everyone through generic campaigns. 9. Chiwetel Ejiofor created the Operative's philosophy. Ejiofor developed his character's monk-like demeanor and philosophical approach to assassination, creating a villain who believed absolutely in the righteousness of his terrible actions. The Operative's certainty that he was serving a greater good by eliminating imperfect elements made him more disturbing than simple evil antagonists seeking power. Ejiofor's performance balanced lethality with genuine spirituality, suggesting someone who had sacrificed his own soul to create a better world he would never inhabit. The character's self-awareness about his moral corruption while continuing his mission created tragic dimension that elevated him beyond typical movie villain. His philosophical conversations with Mal forced the protagonist to articulate his own values and justify resistance beyond simple survival instincts. 10. The film had to work for two audiences. Whedon faced the impossible challenge of satisfying devoted browncoats who knew every detail while making Serenity accessible to viewers unfamiliar with Firefly's characters and mythology. The opening sequences provided essential backstory through action and visual storytelling rather than obvious exposition dumps that would bore existing fans. Character relationships and motivations had to be established quickly while maintaining emotional depth that television series developed over 14 episodes. The dual audience requirement meant some plot elements felt rushed to longtime fans, while potentially overwhelming newcomers with too many characters and complex mythology. Whedon's solution prioritized emotional authenticity and character-driven storytelling that could work regardless of prior knowledge, trusting that good drama would engage both groups. 11. The Miranda discovery was based on real cover-ups. Whedon drew inspiration from actual government experiments and cover-ups when designing the plot about Alliance accidentally creating the Reavers through population control. The reveal that well-intentioned social engineering produced catastrophic, unintended consequences reflected historical examples of government programs causing harm while pursuing utopian goals. The Miranda plotline allowed Whedon to explore themes about information control, official narratives, and the importance of exposing uncomfortable truths despite personal cost. Mr. Universe's role as information broker who dies protecting the truth connected to contemporary debates about whistleblowers and government transparency. The conspiracy elements grounded Serenity's science fiction in recognizable political realities that gave the fantastic premise deeper resonance and thematic weight. 12. Jewel states Kaylee was given more agency. State worked with Whedon to ensure Kaylee wasn't just the cheerful mechanic, but demonstrated her technical expertise and emotional intelligence during crises. Her relationship with Simon was developed beyond simple romantic subplot into genuine partnership between equals with different but complementary skills. Kaylee's optimism under pressure served as counterpoint to the crew's increasing desperation, showing how hope could be practical survival tool rather than naive sentiment. State's performance balanced Kaylee's sweetness with underlying strength that made her believable as essential crew member rather than just morale support. The character's development demonstrated Whedon's commitment to portraying women with agency and competence across different personality types and professional roles. 13. The final space battle was done with models and CGI. The climactic Reaver fleet sequence combined practical miniatures with computer-generated effects to create authentic-looking chaos that served the story's desperate final stand. The hybrid approach allowed for tactical complexity and visual spectacle that pure CGI might have made too clean and choreographed for the story's tone. Whedon wanted the battle to feel genuinely chaotic and dangerous, rather than like video game sequences where heroes execute perfect maneuvers against overwhelming odds. The effects team choreographed the space combat to show how outmatched Serenity was, while demonstrating Wash's piloting skills through near-impossible navigation. 14. It changed how studios viewed fan campaigns. Serenity's existence proved that passionate fan bases could resurrect canceled properties and generate sufficient box office to justify studio investment in niche franchises. The success of DVD sales and the theatrical run demonstrated that traditional metrics didn't capture the full value of devoted audiences willing to support beloved properties. Studios began paying more attention to social media engagement and fan organization as indicators of potential profitability beyond simple Nielsen ratings. The Brown Coat campaign became case study for how grassroots movements could influence entertainment industry decisions through coordinated action and demonstrated loyalty. 15. The final line completed Mal's character arc. Mal's closing acknowledgement that love kept him flying completed his journey from idealistic soldier to cynical smuggler, back to someone who could believe in causes. The emotional conclusion demonstrated that family and loyalty to crew had replaced the political idealism that the war had destroyed in his youth. Fillion's delivery of the final moments showed Mal accepting that his makeshift family was worth fighting for even without grand political victories. The ending suggested that resistance could be personal rather than political, and that protecting those you love was sufficient reason to continue fighting. Serenity proved that canceled shows could return when creators and fans refused to accept defeat. Whedon's willingness to risk everything combined with Browncoat passion created a film that served as both conclusion and demonstration of what's possible when communities organize around beloved stories. Drop a comment below. What legendary film should we dive into next? Because in a verse full of cancellations, some stories refuse to stay grounded.